Hello, audience. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are watching and listening. And this is the Yoruba Autonomy Mobile Radio and Television, broadcasting and reaching you from the great sunshine state of Florida. My name is Femi Akirimisi, and this is Open Editorial. In this edition, we will be addressing the issue concerning the hounding, the arrests, the frozen, the seizing of passports, the frozening of bank accounts, the arrests of the protesters that were involved as leaders and organizers of the SARS protests, which the Nigerian army put a sad pause into when they bring the Nigerian factor into it. When, in fact, the protester has been protesting for 14 glorious days without any incident until the Nigerian army, invited by a moron, came in and opened fire with live bullets on youths having nothing in their hands other than the nation's flag, which they were waving at the Lekki Toll Gate location, where they have camped and were just making their protests and making their demands and reminding Nigerians that are coming and going, bringing their attention to the misrule that is going on by a group of police officers or people supposed to be police officers but are thugs and hooligans and hoodlums and miscreants behind badges, parading themselves as members of the Nigerian police force. I don't even know what the word force is doing in the Nigerian police, other than to intimidate people. Now, after the army came, opened fire and killed as many as untold number of youths, the federal, state, and local government leadership representations were begging, urging the youths to shield their sword, to shield their vocal cords, and stop pounding the pavements. And it took eminent Nigerians and people that have good intention to appeal to the youth, and the youth listened because they are law-abiding and they shield their sword. But now, what are they getting in return for doing that? For being obedient? For trusting Nigerians that are stakeholders in the affairs of the country? At the urgings of their parents, who experienced the same thing when they were youths from the hand of the same government? The government has now turned around in Gestapo style, arresting, detaining, seizing the passports, traveling documents of those who were involved as leaders of SARS, as supporters, as sympathizers of SARS, those that include lawyers, doctors, business people, merchants, slightly older citizens. The government has now turned around, turned against them, and are biting them with the power of the state. We are not about to quickly forget that it was the pleadings and the urgings of local, state, and federal government agency that brought the SARS youths to shield their sword, to pause their pounding pavement actions, because They are law-abiding citizens. Given what is now going on in the aftermath of the SARS protests, those who managed to prevail on the youth to pause their protest action are now regretting their involvement in asking the youth to stop protesting and to discontinue their action decisions. Right now, as we speak, allegedly, and in Nigeria, several individuals has apparently been going into hiding after receiving threatening phone calls from the leadership of government. We know that Modupe Odele's international traveling passport has been seized, and she is being prevented from traveling outside of Nigeria because Rauf Alegbonshola, the Minister of Interior, is keeping a list of no-fly list of Nigerians that they are preventing from traveling abroad because they were involved in the SARS protests. And this is not part of the agreement that was reached. So the government is breaching the agreement is reached because it has been able to get the youth to pause their action. Rinu Oduala also is having her bank accounts frozen by the Central Bank of Nigeria for no other reason other than the role that she played, allegedly, in support of the youth's peaceful protest. So now the government is keeping a list, is keeping malice, is keeping scores. It wants to now settle scores against those that they perceive as their enemy because they were involved in the SARS protests. But we know that to restrict any citizens' movement must be guided by law, and is guided by law. If it is to be done, there must be court ruling, and that can only happen during national emergency or epidemic before a government can begin to go on a wholesale detention or restriction of movement of anybody. It cannot and it should not be at the whims and caprices of the people in the leadership of government. But that is what Nigeria is known for. These houndings of citizens happened also during Obasanjo. The same Obasanjo forgot that it was the citizen that stopped and wholesomely prevented the success of Dinka school. What did the Nigerian student get in turn? They got restricted. Those who do not know the role that was played by Segun Okeowo, who was then the president of the Nigerian Student Association, and then he has to change into Nigerian Student Organization. National Organization of Nigerian Students becomes National Association of Nigerian Students because the government, the leadership of government, the apparatus of the powers of government were being utilized to hound those that they perceive as enemy. It is so unfortunate that in this situation that we are talking about, the Central Bank of Nigeria is now neck deep in its transforming itself into a partisan political organ of the government and putting its vast regulatory power into illicit partisan political uses for the purpose of suppressing the legitimate exercise of citizens' constitutional right of freedom of speech and expression to call and request and demand that the government govern according to best practices in government. It is preposterous and appalling and self-defeating for the government to be doing what it is clearly doing. The Central Bank of Nigeria, which has transformed itself into a partisan political organ of the government, is about to get it from the citizens, because you cannot ask citizens to be cashless and then now be making those citizens that you ask to be cashless, to be paying for being cashless, for your illegal partisan undertaking on behalf of the government, using the vast power that you have to regulate banking and economy in the country, using that power to suppress the legitimate exercise of people's constitutional rights to freedom of speech and expression. Let me tell the Nigerian people this. Government policy requires you to be cashless. However, because you follow that policy demand and requirement, you now have what we call BVN, and with your BVN you have banking accounts. But the government is now turning around to be freezing your account so that you can go hungry, so that you can be at their whims and caprice and not be able to have access to your money, your sweat, where you need it, just because they want to keep scores on you for calling on them or calling out on them when they are erring when it comes to good governance. Let me advise you, if you can, and if you take my advice, if I were you, I will cease putting all my eggs in a basket. I will do what those in the leadership of government are doing. Because when they steal the money that belongs to the Commonwealth, they don't go put it in bank. They look for ways to launder it. They keep it away from the bank. That's why you are having people not having banking account or have bank account, but have the majority of their money. It's either inside a coffin or inside a casket or in a dug hole, as if it's a burial ground. They bury the money and they go to reach it from inside wells. So what stops you from doing that, the ordinary citizen? Do what they are doing, so that at any point in time, you have access to your money. The banks are not even working for you in the first place. See how much the bank is taking from your money, from you. If they are not charging you for ATM money, they are charging you for having a savings account or for not having a special saving account. They are charging you for the withdrawals. They are charging you for withdrawing your money. They are penalizing you for withdrawing your money, when the purpose is for you to keep your money in there. See how much they take from your money. Stop working for the bank if the bank will not work for you. Your money is supposed to yield interest, but not in Nigeria banks. They are all a bunch of crooks. Most unfortunate as well is the injustice meted out to answer leaders by one so-called Justice A.R. Mohammed. I do not know what his A.R. stands for, but clearly this judge does not seem to have enough understanding of law, because he is now on record as agreeing to issue an order and issuing orders to freeze people's account without hearing from the people that have the account first. So they are targeting, and he's agreeing to target the answer protesters. What a miscarriage of justice. This judge is asking those caught and crippled by the orders of his court to now come to his court to review an order that he made in their absence. Should those whom he made the order against not have been heard of from in the first place? Some will say that is Nigeria for you. Nothing works. If it is not their foolishness, you have a moron parading himself as X this, X that, X everything else, but no nothing. Yet, he's there as authority. Now in Nigeria, clearly and apparently, things has fallen apart with the trust that the SARS protesters had when they shielded and put a pause on their protest. If you all will remember, I asked that they do not quit. I asked that they do not stop. I asked that they should just have 2 weeks pause, honoring those who were felled by the bullets of the Nigerian army, and then return to their protests. Because I know that the government and the people in the government will betray them. I said this in my broadcast. I said it. I said, do not be caged, do not be cowed, do not be tricked. That this is how they do. I made reference to Obasanjo, the way they dealt with the Nigerian Student Association when he was military head of state. I made reference to Obasanjo when he went and killed the people at Odi. I made reference to the fact that Nigeria do not obey law. I made reference to the fact that the document they have as constitution is not a constitution. That it is a one-man show. I call on the SARS protesters, I call on them to return to the protests. But this time around, to make it a protest of dawn to dusk. Start at 8 a.m. End it at 6 p.m. Do it on daily basis. Return now. What are you waiting for? See what they are doing to the protesters. See what they are doing to the organizers. Listen to what Lai Mohammed has said. That the government should regulate the social media as if they have the capacity to do so. And I dare them to do that. Because that will be a coup by themselves against themselves. Their government will finally fall. It is spiraling down, and it is terrible. Make no mistake and do not listen to the lie that will be told by Rauf Aregbesola that he's not keeping a list of people that are sympathetic to the SARS and SWAT protests. A government that cannot even provide 24 hours electricity to the people. Pipe-borne water is a dream. The roads are death traps. But they do not care because their children mostly are not even in the country. What they do week in, week out is to go to the federal executive meeting to share money. The money that they are borrowing from abroad that they intend our children and children's children to pay back is what they are sharing among themselves and keeping in caskets, keeping in shitholes, keeping in burial grounds. They change it to foreign dollars and then They build a house for it. They are not taking it to the banks because they can't explain the source of the money. But they want you to bring your own money there so that they can reach it before you will reach it and froze it. They fight you with your money. They make you regret opening a bank account. Why they have access to their own that is inside caskets, locked away in a cupboard, in a building out there in a remote village. In a special compartment of their car. In the storage facilities. Yes, that's where they're having all this money. All of these ministers, so-called ministers, so-called senators, so-called representatives that represented nothing. Chairman of local government, caretaker committee. Nigeria is the only place where people that are elected will be terminated by another person that is also elected, called governor, and then appoint his cronies in lieu of those that were elected. They call them caretaker committee, local government chairman. It is now up to you, citizen of Nigeria, from state to state, from local government to local government, to speak up. Sorosoke. Speak to authority. Be firm. Don't be caged. Don't be at their call and beckon. Another sad part of this entire story is the silence of conspiracy. This conspiracy of silence by the big-time pastors. The like of Dr. Olukoya, MFM. The like of Pastor Enoch Adeboye, Redeemed Christian. The likes of TB Joshua, Synagogue. Who have kept silence or just making past reference. The like of the one that the pastor of Winners, the pastor of Winners Chapel, David Oyedepo, and many more like that, that are big-time pastors, that the only thing they are good at doing is to be running around, hiding behind a microphone in a church enclave, or an enclave they call church, and be asking their faith followers for tithes. So that God will bless them, or will not bless them if they don't pay tithes. So in short, they are stealing in the name of God from the people that they are supposed to provide for. They are telling people to be expecting miracles, that God will be their security. They'll be giving you oil for your security, but they have armed policemen and soldiers providing them with security. They should be ashamed. All of them, they should all be ashamed. And even those of you that are going to the church, you should be ashamed too. You are so too gullible. They are feeding you with lies that you have to give alms for salvation, which is not done. Salvation is by grace. It is not by your alms. It's not by what you provide. It is not by your good intention. It is just the grace of God. That's how sweet fellowship of the Holy Spirit abounds and live with you. Think before you do. Think before you act. Trust, but verify. Answer. Good people. Return to pounding the pavement. Return and disregard whatever the government is doing, because the government has broken their agreement. I said it. I asked you to go back to pounding the pavement in your protests. Let the government be responding to your demand while you are still protesting them, and that is how it will work. But if you cease, then they will disregard your demands, and those who died will then have died in vain. It is easy to say may they not die in vain, but they will only not die in vain if you return to pounding the pavement. Start your protest at 8 a.m. End it at 6 p.m. Repeat it the next day. And those in the diaspora will take the baton from you when you close the protest for the day. We will do it in the countries that we are living in, and we will be listening and be watching when you are telling us, Sorosoke, speak up, speak to authority, don't be intimidated. That is how you are going to get good governance in Nigeria. Respect will only beget respect. Don't respect people that have no respect for you. Thank you, and God bless you. Everyone that gets this broadcast, hear it, share it, subscribe to it, because you have not heard the last of the EndSARS protest. Subscribe to it, like it, share it. Thank you.